sprint stages at the Tour de France look quite formulaic, but there's a real art and an awful lot of hard work that goes into ensuring that a stage finishes like that. The hard work for a sprint finish actually starts way before here. It starts right back here at kilometre 0. Now, one of the key components of the sprint stage is the breakaway. Now, in their team talks at the beginning of the day, some teams will know that they're riding for a sprint finish. Other teams, they're wanting to hide for the day and conserve their energy for more selective and difficult stages later on. And other teams will get the order that what they've got to do is look for the breakaway. It's up to the sprinters teams and the team of the yellow jersey to decide who they want to let in that breakaway. Now, they want a break that's no threat at all to the sprint jersey classification and no threat at all to the yellow jersey classification. They also want a break with not too many riders in, because obviously the bigger the break, the harder it is to bring back, because the more riders there are there to share the workload. Typically, a break will be about 4 or 5 riders. Now, given that there's potentially 60 or 70 riders on any given day whose orders are to get in that breakaway, you can imagine it's a pretty competitive place at kilometre 0. It often takes then a very long time for the break to actually stick, sometimes in excess of 50 kilometres or so. And for the riders on a sprint stage, this is possibly one of the hardest parts of the day. Speeds are in excess of 60 kilometres an hour or so on a flat road. Now, when the break does go and the teams are happy with the combination of riders, the peloton will stop en masse, often for a nature break, and the speed drops down to about 30 kilometres an hour or so. So that's why the breakaway gets a huge advantage very quickly, because the peloton is going so slowly. Then, once they've all had a bit of a break, the sprinters teams and the general classification team will take to the front and up the pace to about 40 kilometres an hour or so, and then hold the break at a set distance. Now, you can tell by the increase in spectators that we're a lot closer to the finish here. We are, in fact, at the 50 kilometre to go mark. Now, the reason we're here is because it marks quite an important point in the formula of a sprint stage. Now, it's at this point where the sprinters teams and the general classification teams will start to eat into the advantage of the breakaway. So up until now, there's been a sense of equilibrium between the peloton and the breakaway. The gap stays the same, and both the front and the back of the race ride at the same speed. However, at about 50k to go, the sprinters teams know that they need to start reeling the break back in. So it's at this point where they'll start to accelerate. Now, at 10 kilometres to go, the gap from the breakaway to the peloton will have tumbled. However, the peloton doesn't actually want to catch them too soon. This is because when they are caught and the peloton's back together, it'll spark other attacks. So in order to keep the race under control, they'll leave the breakaway dangling at a manageable gap. 5 kilometres to go, things are really hotting up. It's crunch time for the actual sprint. Now, if things are going to plan, the breakaway will have been absorbed by the peloton now. This peloton is still going at top speed. This is because positioning is absolutely critical in the sprint. So what we'll see at this stage is teams jostling for position to keep their sprinters in exactly the right place. And therefore, in order to get in the right place, you have to go as fast as you possibly can. So we're seeing speeds of up to 60 kilometres an hour. Now, at this stage, for a perfect lead out, you'd hope to have 2 teammates in front of the sprinter. Now, one of them does from 1 kilometre to 500 metres to go, and the next one does from 500 metres to 250 metres, roughly. Now, although this isn't very long, those guys are basically doing a full sprint, so they aren't able to sustain it for any longer than that. And that leaves our sprinter with just 250 metres to go.